by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. K-Man Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The K-Man Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning, and welcome to For the Record. Today is Monday, the 17th day of June 2019, one day after Father's Day. I trust that everyone had an enjoyable weekend. And all of you fathers out there, I trust that you had an enjoyable day as well, that you were treated like royalty by your family members, your children, and everyone else. And trust that they were extremely appreciative of the fact that you are a father. And at the same time, we want to continue to encourage you to display those true attributes of a father. Continue to do that. Continue to support your families. Many times you are the stronghold of of a family. You are the centerpiece, the pillar of the family. And many people depend on you, so continue to do your good works as fathers as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and, by extension, For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I'm your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. Phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. If you don't like to talk on the telephone, email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where we encourage you to send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And, of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. Again, for all of those families who lost loved ones during the past few weeks, we again want to extend our sincerest sympathies to you as well. Want to give a big shout out this morning to Miss Dearline Wellington. Some of you know her as Tit Tit. Lives right there on the junction of Shedden Road and Eastern Avenue. And that area before was called Grand Bridge. Learned that from Awawa, over the weekend, Friday evening, talking to Awawa, 90-odd years old, I think 90, 92, going on 93 in soon. And she, before they moved down to Rock Hole, in Rock Hole area, they lived in an area called Grande Bridge. That area was a swamp area. You've heard Dr. Steve Macfield talk about Mr. Lorraine Russell and Mr. Martin being in charge of building the road there, made out of rocks that were brought in to build a bridge there. So that's where Miss Tit's house in that area, right across the street from Mr. Lemuel Miles' house as well in that area. And then you have Mr. Frede, who's related to Miss Tit also. So, one of our colleagues here at Radio Cayman paid her a visit. Miss Susan Watson paid her a visit on the weekend, wanted to take a photograph of her old Caymanian-style house, and she gave her a tour of the house and everything. And she's really amazed at Miss Tit's ability to still move around. When she got there, she was raking the yard, actually, as Miss Susan said, 90 years old, and involved in scouting, Cubs, Akela, as well. Her scout leader's name, Akela. And again, a big shout out to Miss Theoline Wellington, or we know her as Tit, this morning as well. And I know that she's a regular listener to Radio Cayman, and I trust that she's listening this morning as well. One of the Caymanians that we lost past week was Miss Beverly Banks. And it is striking that I receive copies from Mr. Alfonso Wright of the Cayman Times that was published in the 1950s. And just this is an aside, for those of you who don't like to live in the past, I'm not apologizing to you. You don't have to listen if you don't want, but I'm going even further back into the past now. Beyond the trade winds in the 60s, I'm going to 1957. And there was a newspaper that was published called the Cayman Times, and I think the one of the publishers, the name may have been someone by the name of Hall, but I will get those details for you later. And the headlines on this date, the 25th of March, 1957, and this newspaper was published every Monday. So the 25th of March, 1957, on a Monday, the headlines is Issa raves over West Bay Beach. Now, Mr. Issa, of course, Abe Issa, was a Jamaican businessman. Also in that issue, Trinidad owes us £20,000 for government war advances. And what happened there basically was that when people were going off to serve in the war in Trinidad, they were given advances by the government here in the Cayman Islands, and they were supposed to be reimbursed by Trinidad for that. So they owed £20,000. We'll do some research to see whether or not we ever received that £20,000, because in the 1950s, that was a lot of money in the 1950s. But also in that issue, and like I said, we lost another one of our Caymanian icons on the past week. And that issue of the Cayman Times, the March issue, Girl of the Week. Now, they had an article for persons or personalities, and then they had various persons as Girl of the Week. In this particular one, the reporter writes, I choose 17-year-old Beverly Habib, now known as the late Beverly Banks, of Georgetown, as this week's Girl of the Week. Goes on to read, although Beverly was born in Jamaica, she came here as a small child with her mother, Mrs. Florence Habib of Grand Cayman. She attended the Cayman High School, where she graduated just recently and now works in Barclays Bank as a clerk. Beverly is a member of the Presbyterian Communion and is fond of reading, dancing, and hand embroidery. Fascinating. She is a fascinating creature with quite decided views as to what she would like to see done to improve the islands, which have become home to her. She said, Beverly, I want to see the roads fixed. They are in shocking condition. Then after she had thought for a while, she added, I would also like to see a social club form for us as teenagers. And it goes on to read, so, in the face of this universal cry for good communications and increased social activity, I hope that we can look forward to these badly needed improvements in the very near future. So in 1957, 25th of March, Miss Beverly Habib, now Miss Beverly Banks, of past memory, just passed away a few weeks ago, and her funeral was this past weekend as well. In 1957, she was chosen as the Girl of the Week by the Cayman Times. What else did we have in the paper in 1957? There's an article there about a fire that damaged Dr. Marsh's house. And as you know, I believe the clinic was operated, the dental clinic was operated out of the same building. And it says here that a fire broke out at the city's dental clinic on March 12th at about 3 p.m., destroying all articles in the kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom upstairs occupied by Dr. Hugh Marsh. Dr. Marsh was in his garage attending to his car when the blaze started. Mrs. Marsh and their children were upstairs when the fire, when they first saw the smoke. Acting quietly but quickly, Mrs. Marsh led the children downstairs. And then it goes on to talk about the bucket brigade and the assistance that was rendered by persons to help to out the fire as well. Also in that issue of the Cayman Times, there's an article there about Lady Foote, who was the wife of the governor of the Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. His name would have been Sir Hugh Foote. I think he may have become Sir later on. I'm not sure, because I think he went on after that to represent the United Kingdom in the United Nations also. But she visited the islands along with Sir Hugh Foote as well. And she would have been the First Lady, basically. She visited schools, many of the schools in the Cayman Islands, and some other social events. What else? Advertisements, lactogen. In those days, a baby food was lactogen, and that was advertised in the newspaper. Time for us to take a commercial break. I'll look for some more articles when we return. Folks, please stay tuned. I believe we have one caller as well. So when we return, we will take that caller also. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Although far less populated than Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, Little Cayman was most definitely populated and a utilized island in the past, with numerous archaeological evidence discovered to support this. Off the north coast, 2 well-known historical wells have been located, along with an assortment of various size anchors around the coral of Bloody Bay, abandoned provision grounds, remains of an old stone fort, remnants of coconut harvesting, phosphate collection, and old trails. It is believed that the area would have been utilized for more than just the occasional passing ship, due to the organized piles of limestone rock which is believed to have been cleared to clear the soil for cultivation.
Information from this historical vignette was sourced from the Maritime Heritage of the Cayman Islands by Roger C. Smith.
Radio Cayman's historical facts vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
When you need stability, think Business of the Year.
Considering a new career opportunity, think Best Place to Work.
When dependability matters, think Outstanding Workforce.
In need of a reliable financial partner, think Bank of the Year.
When you seek excellence, think Cayman National.
No matter how many accomplishments we achieve, we always set the bar higher. That's why we are the most awarded bank in Cayman, and we are proud to be your
2018 Bank of the Year.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Did you know the third most important factor for customer retention is cleanliness? With 95% of shoppers saying exterior appearance influences where they decide to shop. Keep your business clean with Roper's Janitorial. From offices to restaurants, interior and exterior, walls to rugs and flooring, Roper's cleans it all, including 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Dress your business for success with Roper's Janitorial. We make your business shine. 949-2511.
I remember playing at 7 Mile Beach as a boy, eating mango by the sea, learning how to snorkel. My mother, she worked so hard to provide for our family so that we could have those moments. Seeing her age has been tough. That strong, capable woman, now in need of daily support, it's my time to be strong for her.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of the careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Wow, it seems I buy a battery every year.
Oh, for real? You should buy your car battery from Vampman. Their batteries are tough. I have a 3-year warranty on mine.
Oh, I know that trick. I take it back and they charge me a percentage of the price.
Hear me out, bro. Not at Vamp Bobo. You can get a 3-year full warranty, no charge. And if they install it at Vamp, it includes free towing and jumping service. And let me tell you, you will never have to get your hands dirty changing no battery.
Get Motorcraft Max or Plus battery for 20% off when it's installed by the service department at Vamp Motors on Walker's Road. Now that's a deal you can get charged up about. Vamp Motors, keeping you on the road.
Extended through June.
Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All-Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We had one caller. I trust that the caller is still there. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
That's good morning, OC.
Morning. How are you, Doc?
Good. I was calling to say to Miss Theoline, happy birthday.
No, it's not her birthday, actually. We just talking about her. Someone visited her, and we were talking about it this morning, so I gave her a shout-out.
Okay, all right. And then, so I also, with Miss Beverly Banks, I was at the funeral. And I don't go often to funerals, but her funeral was such a celebration. It was such a joy. We had such a good time. I mean, people were just laughing so many times because it's always that when relationships were so alive, that they remain alive in people's memories. And when people are, verbalizing that or demonstrating that you can feel the life still, you can feel the love still, you can feel the dedication still, and that's the way I felt, and a lot more people like me. I guess if Mario Ebanks from West Bay was to call him, he would say the same thing. I was there second time I met him at a funeral at the same church, and we both looked at each other like, boy, Cayman really does have special. You could see something really special at Caymanian funerals,
Yes.
You can see what the community is like. You can see you can see the configuration of the community. You can see the involvement that was always there, where people are involved in each other's lives until death do us part. And so just a little bit of reference back to your interest in history and Arden's interest in history, and Arden talking about giving the students from the East End Primary School a book, he's founded Upon the Seas, that was put together by Dr. Creighton and the New History Committee, and what a project that was. I think that was brought to fruition by the Honorable McKeever Bush. But before McKeever Bush, there was the Honorable Jim Barton, who started the whole quest for the modern history of the Cayman Islands. And I remember in 1979, Jim Barton gave me quite a few documents of the Cayman Islands history that he had managed to collect himself.
Okay.
And his interest was that I write a history of the Cayman Islands, and he said he would pay me $1,000 a month. Well, $1,000 a month was a lot of money at
those days, yes.
And what his interest was so much in the history. I wrote Time Longer Than a Rope instead, because for one thing, we didn't really have this kind of material. And Jim Barton was not a man that liked us to talk about race. And race was such an important part of the foundation of the Cayman Islands because of slavery. It was a slave society, and Dr. Chris Williams actually argues in opposition to the thesis of Roy Barton that the Cayman Islands was not a society of slaves, it was a slave society, which meant that the foundation of the society, the economic foundation of the society, was slavery. So that when slavery was abolished in 1834, the economy of the island fell apart, and therefore there was social and political disintegration. And this is one of the reasons why you had the Pedro Castle group of people that got together in order to form new alliances. We don't like to, I know Dr. Steve likes to come on and sort of, say nice things about our history, but we also need a critical look at all times to the historical and mystical facts that we hold about ourselves, because there are certain untruths that we have about ourselves, or we romanticize our relationships to the point where we don't see how those relationships could grow to be sociologically and political damaging to many of the different interest groups in the society. And this is what I've always felt with regards to the question of race, which nobody really wants to touch.
Yes, yes.
I noticed that Sandy Hill started to talk a little bit about race and privilege, and she got shut off of Facebook because of the people who did not want her to be articulating anything that would have shown that they have the possibility to negotiate differently in our society when it comes to misdemeanors or wrongdoing than people like myself might have. This is like when somebody says something and one person is ignored and the other person is slapped in the face or arrested and taken to court. These are the types of things that we're talking about, because we need to understand people's relationships with each other based upon the negotiating power which they have as individuals or members of a particular class or members of a particular race. But going back to Jim Borden and the Creighton and the history of the Cayman Islands, I just think that the history book that we have of the Cayman Islands could teach us so much if we would deal with real sociological history rather than just looking to sort of elevate the ego and the boasting, which has gotten us in a lot of problems, I believe, in terms of how we have constructed our society, that we have not looked at the construction of society very wisely. We have allowed people to come in here, people who have come with the idea of privilege in their minds because of their race and because of their nationalities, and they have come and they have wanted to find themselves in certain hierarchical positions in our society, and in many cases they have been able to be successful. So what we're building in this country is really a very sort of interesting social experiment in pluralism, which is putting different groups of people together. And really, at the end of the day, when you shake it up, the Caymanians are not going to find themselves in the top. They're going to find themselves really basically, if not in the bottom, in the middle someplace. But we will not be the group of people that will have the hegemony, that will have the power in the society, simply because we ignore the fact that when we're dealing with societies, we're dealing with the construction of relationships between people that are based upon their possibility to negotiate what it is that they want, based upon the power which they have, which is normally based upon the money which they have, which is based upon their control over the economy. So I would like to hear people a little bit more, not just talking about what happens, but giving a particular type of analysis, sociological and political analysis, so that people understand how is it that our society was constructed in a way where we would be at the bottom at the end of the day. And that has a lot to do with how we see government and how we see the role of politicians. We see the role of politicians.
Doc, I have to interrupt you. We've reached the 8 o'clock hour, sorry, and we have to break for our news. Sorry to interrupt you there, but time doesn't allow us to go on any further. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Studio time now by Price Right is $7.59.
Priced Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Priced Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Priced Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Access information. Your community. News and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. A busy May in the real estate industry. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has more.
A quick overview of the real estate market shows more than 1,500 active listings as of May 31st, 2019, with 103 new listings coming on board for the month, 93 sales, and 34 pending sales. That's according to the Cayman Islands Real Estate Brokers Association. There are 849 active residential properties with an average list price of just over $1.372 million U.S. Average time on the market, 493 days. Land is the second largest category on the list, with 572 active listings on the market for 832 days on the market, and an average list price of $652,000 U.S. dollars. When it comes to single-family homes, at the end of May, there were 268 single-family homes on the market. The average list price, just over $2 million U.S. There were 523 condos on the market with an average list price of $1.1 million. Now, this data does not include private sales or transactions outside of the Cayman Islands Real Estate Brokers Association. Sariba has 35 active members and 227 brokers and real estate agents. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
And there's a new board of officers and directors from the Rotaract Club of Grand Cayman. More from Radio Cayman's Shanta Gallego.
Joel Porter will step into the role as president of the club for the 2019-2020 year, and according to a Rotaract press release, the goal for the year is to forge closer working relationships with the other Rotary and Rotaract clubs in the Cayman Islands, as well as other service clubs and associations. He also stated they're sticking to the same Rotaract District 720 theme of Impact Unity. Since joining Rotaract in 2014, Mr. Porter has served as Community Service Director, Treasurer, and Vice President, and led many projects for the club, including partnerships with the Cayman Islands Blood Bank and CVO and Meals on Wheels. Other officers and directors installed include Vice President Darren Connolly, Treasurer Andrew Bloomfield, Secretary Kimberly McNamee, and Directors Philip Richter, Professional Development, Ornella Leong, Sergeant at Arms, Courtney Michelle Nicholson, Club Service, Radika Welcome, International Service, Rhonda Coleman, Community Service, Brandon Martinez, Public Relations Chair, and Josh Saldiba, Fundraising Chair. Rebecca Gomez will serve on the board as immediate past president for the 2019-2020 year. Shanda Gallego, Radio Cayman News.
If you're interested in joining Rotaract, you are encouraged to contact the club by emailing vprotaract@gmail.com. You can also find out more at rotaractky.org. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with David Austin. The founder of the Chinese technology giant Huawei has said that his company's revenue will dip to approximately $100 billion this year and the next, down from forecasts of $120 billion. Ren Zhengfei likened his company, which has been targeted by U.S. sanctions, to a badly damaged plane. Beijing has reiterated its support for Hong Kong's chief executive Carrie Lam after a massive demonstration demanding her resignation over a controversial extradition bill. Hong Kong's most prominent student leader, Joshua Wong, joined calls for Carrie Lam to quit. Iran has warned European countries that unless they relieve the pressure of U.S. economic sanctions, it'll breach some of its nuclear obligations. Tehran says it will soon surpass the level of low-enriched uranium permitted under the 2015 nuclear deal from which the U.S. has withdrawn. The emergency services in Nigeria say at least 30 people have been killed in a triple suicide attack in the northeast of the country. The bombers, believed to be from Boko Haram, detonated their explosives outside a hall where people were watching a football match on television. Health officials in southwestern Kenya are treating a suspected case of hemorrhagic fever and have put a female patient who's travelled from Uganda in isolation. East African countries are on high alert after Ebola, a hemorrhagic fever, is confirmed to have spread to Uganda from the Democratic Republic of Congo. BBC News.
Access and information. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman. The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211.
Place household garbage in large bags prior to its placement in a garbage container to avoid spillage during collection. A suitable garbage container must be made of sturdy materials that will allow it to withstand weathering. A tightly fitted cover is also necessary to keep out water and stray animals. Do your part. Keep your surroundings clean. Store household garbage in a suitable garbage container. For more tips on proper waste packaging, please visit DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
The Weather Report is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky. New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Pleasant good morning. Let's take a look at what's happening weather-wise. Synopsis indicate isolated showers along with moderate southeast winds and seas will prevail across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours. Radar images show isolated showers north of the Cayman area, which are moving towards the northwest. Now, the forecast for today and tonight calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will be in the low 90s today and fall to the upper 70s tonight. Winds will be east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. Today's high tide will occur this morning at 8 minutes past 9, low tide this afternoon at 3:38, and a high tide again tonight at 10:37. The sun will set this evening at 4 minutes after 7 and will rise tomorrow morning at 5:48. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Wednesday morning. Current temperature is 84 degrees. Relative humidity is 81%. Barometric pressure 29.96 inches and rising. Wind is east at 9 knots. Overnight low temperature was 79.
Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center was the proud sponsor of the Weather Report, your one-stop shop for all of your household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations, and much more. Call Super Stitch at 949-2833 or email customer care at superstitch.com.ky. New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Superstitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Superstitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Good morning once again. Let's take a look what's happening traffic-wise. Busy traffic coming from the east. Slight delays expected on Shamrock Road and also the Linford Pearson Highway. And a little steady traffic coming off of Bobby Thompson Way and traffic flowing steadily on Huldah Avenue as well as on Crew Road. Some sections Crew Road busy, other sections steady. And traffic moving along moderately in both directions on the West Bay Road in front of the Ritz. In and out of Georgetown on Shedden Road, things looking pretty good as traffic flowing moderately as well as Easton Avenue and Godfrey Nixon Way. Coming from the West Bay four-way stop, traffic flowing light to moderate and moderate flow of traffic on Edward Street. That's the very latest on your traffic. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12. We'll update you traffic-wise. Remember 10-2 on the steering wheel. Have a good morning.
At Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you.
This week at Kirk Home Center, make it all about Dad. Keep him sharp with a beard and mustache trimmer for $16.69. Help Dad relax in a self-standing hammock for $208.39. Save on an electric power washer with rolling cart for $256.49. And 1 gallon tank sprayers for $14.49.
Kirk's Home Center, we got a great deal in store for you.
There are plenty of reasons to be a Logic customer. There's lightning-fast internet connectivity. There's the great overall customer experience. And now, you can improve your Wi-Fi connectivity with Logic Boost Wi-Fi for free. With Boost, you can extend your freedom to stream, game, and download seamlessly anywhere in your home, like your patio or your underground lair if you have one. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
Support our port, support our tourism.
I support building the piers because the cruise industry puts millions of dollars into our economy each year. Without that revenue, young people like me risk facing an uncertain future. Learn more and spread the word.
Looking forward, looking bright. Support our port, support our tourism.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning to discuss the National Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan for the Cayman Islands 2017 to 2026. In the studio with me, we have Miss Nancy Bernard, who is the Deputy Chief Officer in the Ministry of Culture. Also with us is Dr. Margaret Leshikar. Dr. Margaret Leshikar Denton.
And you can call me Peggy.
Peggy, okay. From now on, we'll call you Peggy as well, who is the Director of the National Museum in the Cayman Islands, and also with us, known to everyone in the Cayman Islands, Mr. Jerris Miller, who's on the steering committee for this National Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan, the committee for that. He is also the president of the Cayman Islands Catboat Club, and also a member of the Maritime Heritage Foundation. Is that the president of that?
Chairman.
The chairman of that as well. So before I get any of this confused, since I've introduced everyone, but I will give you all an opportunity to introduce yourselves as well. That'll make it much clearer for my listening and viewing audience. We'll start with Miss Nancy.
Good morning, Sosie. Thank you very much for having all of us here. We're part of the steering committee that comprised quite a few people, approximately 18 people, which pulled this together with the people of the Cayman Islands, because the way policies are developed now, we really have to have consensus. And we did a survey and we got over 300 responses. So the people of the Cayman Islands spoke into this policy. We made it 10 years so that we had an opportunity to really make a go of this, rather than just have it start and then stop. There's so much work to do. It's so exciting, and I just want to make sure that we address all the key points today. So I'll hand over to Peggy.
Okay. Well, I'm very pleased to be here and to be part of this wide community of cultural and heritage bodies and individuals who've been brought together by the Ministry of Culture to work on the national culture and heritage policy. There was Nancy can tell you more, but there was an original steering committee that has been working in major waves, if you will. The first wave essentially produced the policy, and the second wave is working essentially on a costed operational plan. Along the way, to develop the policy, there were a number of steering committees created, some dealing with the arts, with terrestrial heritage, land heritage, and other things, maritime heritage, and that sort of thing, to bring a wide cross-section of the community's voices forward to contribute to this. And I was very pleased to chair the steering committee on maritime heritage. Jerissa was a member of that, and we had many maritime-oriented people along with that. So that's sort of my relationship at this stage with the policy.
Sure. Mr. Miller.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank the government for having an opportunity to be involved with this. The process is really a good process that they put in place for this. It's not a rushed process. It's a very deliberate process. And it really is what we need because we're starting from scratch. So, we have to develop with the feedback from the public as to what should be in our culture and heritage policy. And it's a complex issue because our culture today is it's different than it was years ago. It's still our culture today. So we have to include our, a reflection of what our society is today in this policy, because this is what it is now. Having said that, I'm really pleased with how they're reaching back to sort of guide this broader policy. But it's not being the overriding factor. So it's a real good idea, because I think all Caymanian residents, whether you're first, second, third generation or whatever, or recent or a much earlier person that moved to Cayman, this policy is seeking to be very inclusive for everyone.
Yeah. Now, when we look at culture and we think of it in terms of definition, one of the definitions associated with it is it's a learned behavior. Culture is a learned behavior. It is also seen as a characteristic, a knowledge of a particular group of people that encompasses language, for instance, religion, cuisine, social habits, music, the arts, all of those things as well. So it has a huge reach.
It's how we live, how we act, how we interact. Absolutely. And I think Jerris basically encapsulated one of the main concerns that we as a committee had with this, moving this forward for the people, which is, and that's why we took pains to name it Culture and Heritage Policy and Plan, because our culture and our heritage, while they're intertwined, and they, of course, this cultural heritage, they speak to each other. Some of us do not all share our Caymanian heritage, because you've just read a definition for culture, and I'll read one now that we've got in the policy for heritage, which is that, I'll just find it here again, sorry. Something of value or importance passed down by or acquired from a predecessor or an ancestor, recognized cultural identity and roots. And I think what Jarrah said was, this policy is for everyone, but we recognize, and we took pains to recognize throughout this whole process, that there are many of us newer Caymanians who do not have the generational, we do not have the heritage hair necessarily, but we're now, the children that we're having, the newer ones, are sharing a bit of that heritage, albeit newer. So we have to recognize that there are some people, the generational Caymanians, which we could have a whole other topic on that, because I really do think there is a First Peoples here. There has to be a First Peoples anywhere you go, whether they're newer or whether they're Maori and they're hundreds of thousands of years old. But, you know, they have different feelings towards this whole process. And that's absolutely fine, and that needs to be explored. And that, OC, was the number one thing that came out of this process, was people feel as if heritage is slipping away. It is in danger of slipping away if we don't preserve it and protect it. However, our culture will forever be, you know, moving on. And
I think that is important. And if you may, because we get people calling, we receive emails, messages, people saying, you know, we're losing our culture. I'd like you to repeat that, the difference between culture and heritage, so that those persons can really be reassured of what we're losing and what we're not losing.
Okay, so basically culture is the definition that we've used, is that it is a people's way of being, knowing and doing. It's a set of basic assumptions and values, orientations to life, beliefs, policies, procedures, shared by a group of people that influence but do not determine each member's behavior and his or her interpretations of the meaning of other people's behavior. Right off the bat, we have an issue with that definition in Cayman, because we have so many, over 120, I think was the last count, different cultures share in Cayman. But remember, a lot of them are intermarried. So also one family could have 3 or 4 different cultures, right? Then the heritage is something of value or importance passed down by or acquired from a predecessor or ancestor, recognized identity and roots. So, for instance, if you use a newer family here that's been here 1 or 2 generations, right? They may come with different, I don't know, British or Canadian or other, you know, they might be from Zimbabwe or somewhere. And they're living and working in Cayman, and their kids might be going to school here. So while they're not really knowing what's going on with our heritage, that's where education has to really step in. And the new education law has in the curriculum, I think they've rolled it out to primary schools, and they hope to in secondary later, the history and heritage. But that is where we really have to focus on. If people are feeling as if culture is dying, it's because the cultural heritage is important. And that's why I'd say 80% of what we're doing now, we have to maintain, promulgate, share all the things from the Caymanian heritage that makes Cayman unique into today's cultural activity.
Okay. And once that, add to that, we still have some time before we go to our commercial break.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to it in terms of reinforcing what Nancy just said, because a lot of people don't differentiate between our heritage and our culture. And as I said earlier, the culture is what it is today, and we're all proud of what our culture is today. But it has a lot of influences from before. But this whole process seeks to capture the heritage part of this as the basis for moving forward to the culture, and more importantly, as I alluded to earlier, the inclusiveness, the way the process that this policy is using. It's being involved with the education department as well. Right. This is really a big part of this whole thing. Is the kids should not only learn their culture, but they should feel that it's available at all times as they grow. And that's something that this seems to be encompassing, and getting it into the schools, I think, is a really important thing. But we just need to get proper guidelines together and a proper law in place so that we have something to direct.
And I would just like to say that culture is it can be tangible as well. It can be intangible and tangible. So it's very important to realize we do have, objects that remind us of our heritage. I mean, things from the past, things, just our coat of arms, for instance, or things like that. But then we have the sense of like, food and dance and things that are, have intangible aspects to them. So it's very important to realize that as we're looking through this policy that it's not just abstract. It's something that can be very grassroots as well.
Okay. Before we get into the policy itself, I don't know if any of you heard Dr. Frank Macfield call in the show earlier and was talking about our heritage and some of the things in our past that we fail to highlight, either consciously or subconsciously fail to highlight. And one of those things, has to do with slavery in our past, and what slavery had to do in our past, and feel that people are sometimes reluctant to discuss that, or some people may even be in denial because they want to paint this rosy picture of the Cayman Islands of the past.
That's a very
that?
very important point.
Yes.
And we actually had a kind of we had a subcommittee that looked at legal, and it looked at subcultures, and it looked at things that weren't being uncovered. And we had Mr. Steve Macfield on that one. Okay. And I learned a lot in that session. I was helping make minutes and so on. And we have so much that we need to do to really highlight the history of the slave past in Cayman. And it was slightly different than other jurisdictions, but it was still very much there, and it spoke to, and I know there's people that are concerned with the mercantile classes and so on. So that is a whole volume of history that has to be explored. A lot of our history is in archives in other countries around the world, but we do need to address all of those things. It's not a pretty policy. It's going to look at the good, the bad, the ugly, and things that we need to develop, and there's so much work to do. You could throw 10 people at this full time over the next 10 years and we would barely touch the edge of it. Okay, well, what we'll do now, we'll take a commercial break. When we return, we want to get into the meat of the work that is being done, what has been done so far, what is left to be done, and at the end of the day, what will this all culminate in? Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, formerly known as Professional Pharmacy, would like to thank the Cayman communities for their loyal support these past 18 years. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care. Thorough background checks and follow-up consultations is only the beginning. Your safety is our concern. Our staff are respected healthcare professionals whose job requires careful and precise calculations. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we prepare to provide exceptional care. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we care about your health.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. All Grand Court jurors who are in the 3rd April 2019 to 2nd July 2019 session, you've been advised that the report date of today, Monday the 17th of June, has been changed. Instead, you are required to report for jury duty tomorrow, Tuesday, June 18 at 9:45 a.m. You can call the jury information line at 244-3899 for the most up-to-date information, or you can email jury@judicial.ky.
Radio Cayman 3 to 6 mix on the weekdays. Brought to you by
Cayman Insurance Center, serving the community for 45 years. Don't take chances with your family's future. Call Denise Brown at 814-7229 or Michael Webster at 925-5433. Fitness Plus and Train with Dre. Getting in shape has never been easier with the mobile fitness app by Train with Dre and the new Eco Power Sport Art equipment.
Every day.
All the time.
Visit fitnessplus.com for more information. And City Walk, serving Chinese, Japanese, and Filipino dishes until 11 p.m. each night. East meets West at City Walk. Dine in, take out, or order online. See their full menu at citywalk.ky. Call 947-9965.
Ultimate Party Show in the afternoon. Radio Cayman Super Jam.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're discussing the National Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan for the Cayman Islands. That discussion has taken place with Ms. Nancy Bernard, who's the Deputy Chief Officer in the Ministry of Culture, Dr. Margaret Leshaker Denton, who is the Director of the National Museum, and also with us, Mr. Jerris Miller, who, amongst other things, is a member of the steering committee. He's also involved with the Maritime Heritage Foundation and is also the president of the Catboat Club of the Cayman Islands as well. And for those of you who are watching us, either live on YouTube or later on, this is a document that has been produced, very colorful, our national icon, on the front cover, Aunt Julia hides as well. So we want to talk, we're going to continue to talk about this. And before we go any further, Ms. Bernard, I'd like you to tell our listeners and viewers where this can be obtained, either in hard copy or in electronic form as well.
Okay, Mr. Rossi, we're rolling this out now to all the libraries, the public libraries, the schools, public and private, and everywhere we go. So we have a very busy schedule the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. So they'll be here at Radio Cayman in the reception and also at the reception at Government Admin Building. And if anyone wants to get a copy, they can call 244-2372. That's 244-2372.
Okay. Now, I know that there are certain aspects of this that you want to highlight, and that's one of the reasons that you were here, rather than for us to talk overall about the whole thing. Otherwise, we'd be talking for a few weeks or a few months as well. So I want to give you an opportunity to get to those very important issues that you want to talk about.
All right. So, yes, one thing we discussed in the break is that this has a capacity to split off into so many different areas, and you could talk about them for infinity. And I'm sorry, I think I gave the wrong number earlier. Disregard that. I'm going to get the right one for the admin support for that. The policy directions, there are several of them. One of them, we're looking at access. That's ease of access to and the right to take part in cultural life in all forms of cultural expressions and activities for every individual. Now, that's not just physical access. You think of wheelchair ramps and so on, and elevators. It's spiritual, it's emotional, it's economic. Some people can't afford the price to get into places. So all of those kinds of things, we're looking at access, and also being not just in Georgetown but out in the districts. Governance, we're looking at, there's no Department of Culture right now. Because I want to mention we have fantastic cultural organizations at work, but there's no overarching governance body. So we're looking at whether or not a department is, created, there's one thing on the table, or whether or not it's kind of a council where the existing directors and chairs of the various organizations, which are doing a good job already to put this into place and have been before this came into place, how we can pull it all together. Then we talk about legislation. And that's creating and harmonising effective legislative frameworks for the identification, protection, preservation and management of our cultural heritage. I'll give you a key example. We have nothing in the planning legislation right now that stops items of built heritage or vernacular Cayman cottages from being knocked down for development. So unfortunately, that's one of the things we have to look at right away, because those things, once they're knocked down, that's it, they're gone.
But do we have buildings that are, and certain sites that are earmarked as historical sites?
They are. The National Trust has done an amazing job over the past few decades, but there's nothing in legislation at all yet. So that's the gap. Knowledge, we have to develop education, research, human resources to encourage awareness, innovation and professional development in the fields of culture and heritage. And I want to just note that we did have someone from education. We took very seriously to have someone from all the various departments and entities that have liaison with this there, and there was someone who came faithfully to all the meetings over the years.
And legal.
And legal as well, yeah. Development, ensuring the place of culture and heritage in development, which kind of ties in with that. We recognise that development is taking place apace, and we just need to have the integrity of our heritage in that, and look at these, how we involve them both. They're not mutually exclusive. Oftentimes people talk about environment and culture as impediments. They're not. If development incorporates them, it becomes a stronger development. Status of the artist is something which the United Nations talks about, and promotion of the status of the artist and freedom of culture expression, that's a whole standalone body of work. There are artists who are being sort of left behind and not given the credence that they're due and the support that they're due for the work that they do in Cayman. And finally, enterprise. I love this one. This is very forward-thinking, enhancing the role of culture and heritage in social and economic development agendas. So there's so many arts, crafts, the culinary arts. We're the culinary capital of the Caribbean. All of these things are culture and heritage based, and we can use it to augment our economy. So actually one of the things we need to do is a study to see how much our culture and heritage and aspects thereof contributes. Imagine a life of tourism without the catboats, without all of these things for tourists to see and to do.
Yes.
So that's kind of the overview of all the various areas. We have 67 different aims in the policy, and we're looking at costing about 24 of them now.
I guess, my point here is that Nancy's been quite good in terms of rounding up, the diverse individuals and organizations to have the dialogue and to make material a lot of the things that the plan speaks to doing. I think the costed operational plan is something that she has people working on now, which then brings us to the point of, Nancy, can you give an overview of the costed operational plan? I think it would be useful.
Okay, sure. It's basically just making sure the rubber hits the road or the wampas hit the pavement, since we're talking cultural. But it's basically, you can do these things and they're gorgeous. And they've really helped, because just dialoguing every other week for a couple of years and getting public consensus has helped. However, what are we going to do with it? Are we actually going to enable these things that arose? We're going to put them into action. And so that's where we're sitting down now and going, okay, we've identified 24 of the 67, the most important. Let's get those started first. If we can't hit this budget cycle, because as you know, that came upon us, that's kind of wrapping up now for 20 and 21. That's okay. Let's look at 21, 22 or 22, 23 and look at what we can get working in for this year, because unless we get the funding behind some of these things, they're not going to happen. Like, I'll give the museum, back to Peggy, one example is there's no elevator to the second floor. And so persons who don't have access because they're physically disabled, they have to, be carried up, or I'm not sure what but anyway, I'm not, there's so many entities that need assistance. And it's not just those that are deemed culture and heritage. It's anything. It's, we talk about Catboat Club, we talk about, there's so many things that just need us to really put culture and heritage. It's kind of like the disability policy, the older person's policy. Start thinking of these things. Start thinking of all of these things when we develop and when we create the work that we're creating in Cayman, so that they're not left behind.
Okay. One of our listeners has written in and said a lot of our historical records are housed in Jamaica, and we're curious to know whether or not anything is being done to acquire them now that they are in electronic. Now that we are in the electronic age, to have them transferred to our archives. And anyone familiar with that?
I'm aware that in the early 90s, Dr. Philip Pedley did a tremendous amount of work going to various archives around the world, not only like in the UK, but definitely a lot of time in Jamaica. And he actually did achieve, having copies made that I think are actually housed at the National Archive now. But the message you just got is a very excellent one. This day and age, now that things are more accessible, digitally and internet-wise and that sort of thing, it would be very wonderful to make some of the documents more accessible. I've done research in Jamaica. I did a study on the wreck of the 10 sail for my PhD dissertation, and I went to Spanish Town and to the National Library of Jamaica, and I found documents about a ship that had been captured by the British from the French, and it had been called L'Inconstant, the Inconstant by the French, but because the British already had an Inconstant in their navy, they renamed the ship HMS Convert, and her first job then was to lead a convoy of 58 merchant ships on back to Europe, and of course that was the wreck of the 10 sail that happened here. There are actually documents in Jamaica that show the condemnation of the prize, which was, in a prize court you actually had to condemn the vessel, and then it would be acquired for the Admiralty. So, there's all kinds of range of documents from things like that, which I'm very familiar with, to land grants, to there's all sorts of documents all the way up to modern times. Even the newspaper accounts are amazing. When I realized, I've looked at 1794 newspapers that say the mail's going to be on the Convert.
Wow.
And then when she wrecked, it was like, whoops, but the mail was saved, in the wreck of the 10 sail, even though a lot of other things were not. So it was, when I was doing research, it was one of the things that I had overlooked in the beginning. I was trying to look for the letters and the original, all the original correspondence and things like that. And on, towards the end of my research, I found periodicals, and it was like, ooh, these were newspaper accounts. This is not in Jamaica, but it's the Public Record Office in England. I found the Royal Gazette from Jamaica, a copy of it, it had the melancholy news of the loss of the frigate, and the nine other vessels, and it named the vessels then and each of their captains. So, my whole trip was worth just finding out the names of all the ships in the wreck of the 10 sail.
But going back to the writer's question, not everyone has the wherewithal to travel to Jamaica or to the UK, and is any effort being put in place to see how we can centralize these records so that they're more accessible to the people of the Cayman Islands?
Yes. So one of the aims, and I was actually trying to find it, and I couldn't put my finger on the exact aim because there's 67 of them here. But basically, yes, we're aware that there are aspects of our intangible heritage in records all around the world, especially with our seafaring, which globalized Cayman before that term became the thing to use. Yes. But we know that they're out there. We just need to work with the experts in that field, the people responsible for records keeping. We have a lot of respect for our archive, and people like Peggy, who's one of our only archaeologists in Cayman, the only maritime archaeologist, I believe. So there's so much to be uncovered. We don't have plans yet for putting it all together. We first of all have to locate it, but we're very, Jairus hit it on the head earlier, we're very methodical. We're very slow and steady. Yes. So if we have a task to do, it's okay, A to Z, what do we have to do? Who do we have to go to? we try and get all the best people on board. But yes, we know they're out there, and we need to now rally to get them together.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. We still have a few minutes before we go to our break.
Not to belabor that point, but that that listener has raised one of the biggest problems in my mind that we have with our history going back. We have sort of 3 periods of history in the Cayman Islands, and depending on where you fit into the period pre-62 when we came from Jamaica, and then you have up until like the 70s when the banking came in, and it seems to, we've got like these 3 sections of history, and a lot of people are, focused on one or the other of those. It is really important. I mean, we have, while we're able to keep the maritime history in the forefront, we got a lot of other history, including slavery, that, I know nothing about, quite frankly, except the small excerpts that are in the Hearst report, etc. I do know from family history coming down that my great-great-grandfather married the daughter of a slave. But there's nothing to, there's no history. It's not written anywhere that you can find it. I think we backed off of that, decidedly a long time ago. This is an opportunity to bring these things back to the forefront. It's what makes us who we are today.
Precisely.
And we just can't leave out whole chunks of how
Can't hide from it. Can't hide from it at all. So we have one caller. We're going to ask that caller to hang in there. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we will take your call. So please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating?
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory breaded, frozen, and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger licking good.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're discussing the National Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan for the Cayman Islands. We have one caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to your illustrious panel here. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good
morning.
Good morning, sir.
A great tradition there. My father, he was captain on shipwright also, but most of the people nowadays wouldn't have heard of my father.
Oh, yes.
The captains are vital host. And he was one of the carpenters, the 4 carpenters on the gold field. Most of our young people wouldn't even know who the 4 of them were. But they don't forget
I
up.
do.
Yes, you know them. You know them. After still want me to class you as a young person, yes. Anyhow, what you're all talking is a very serious thing. It's a lot of what has happened to us, and I guess some people will say, I'm talking foolishness. It's like we're in a panic mode. We're trying to say that we should have preserved many of the things you're talking about should have done a long time ago. And as you're saying quite rightly, dear Mr. Miller, splitting it into 3 periods and so forth, we can go back, and I talk to people all the while about the older days of slavery, and there are a lot of very important things that are not known, are known, but are not talked about if they are known by people or teachers. Even about the slavery issue, the abolition, pertaining to abolition of slavery document, I was read out by Captain Pack right there at the museum, what's now the museum, on May the 30th, 1835. And then, of course, in Bordentown on May the 5th, and then at the Pedro St. James or Pedro Castle on May the 6th, 1835. But the document series already abolished some 10 months before that for all West Indian colonies. But little things like that we don't say, but it's important. What it did was end the apprenticeship period, the working for free period, which went on in Jamaica for the 4 and 6 years, working for free. The coming up to the more modern times, if we put it that way, of the great turtling days and all that, which is what gave your father's a captain. Well, captain, see. And so my father, and that's what gave them their seafaring abilities, was the turtling, going turtling. Boy, Captain Gleason always talked about that to me, and I wanted to have him have those things recorded. Many things he'd sit and tell me. Alas, it's too late for that now. He's suffering with Alzheimer's. So. But it was remiss of me not pressing him to do that. Many things he told me, and my father. But what people are saying when they say culture too is we wrapped 3 things into one there with the identity is what a lot of people are talking about, that we will lose our identity because they'll say to me, Mick, I walked into this supermarket, walked into this bank, and I only met 1 Caymanian. And they're probably right. But what we've got to realize, we're talking about people my age, people might be even a little older than I am. We can remember Cayman of the late 60s, early 70s, that Cayman that was. Since that time, we've quadrupled the population. No other country has done that. We're trying to come to grips with it, and 130 nationalities packed into some 50-something thousand acres of land. It's a very, very difficult thing to try to isolate the Caymanian culture, identity, heritage, whichever word you want to use, depending on what topic you're picking to talk about. That it's a difficult thing.
That would depend on how prominent you make the Caymanian part of it. Keep that in prominence, and then everything else is subordinate to that. I don't know if I should use the word subordinate, but that's the only word I could find at the time.
It may fall into place, Mr. O.C., because what I just said is this. If we focus on that. Just say, for instance, the thing the lady was talking about there with the wreck of the 10 sails, the Captain Lawford and the convert and all that. There's a detailed book about even the bills of lading that some of the vessels had, it describes their cargo and how much this, and it also gives the last fixes on position, longitude, latitude that the chief mate had taken on board he would be a commander, on board the vessel, the Convert, the British frigate. And we know exactly what happened from that. What happened was that they ran him aground, 9 of them, and that's why you have the record of the 10 sails. And misreading the cannon signal because that used cannon. But all these things are not told to people, and then we perpetrated that foolish myth, and it became a big, big thing in society here and helped to sort of...
Don't forget that part of our history there was wrecking in that area up there too. So it might not be the captain. It might not be the captain's fault. It might have been someone on the shore with a donkey with a lantern.
Lantern, all these things,
but we don't talk about those things, you see, and we don't make it part of our history. But it's how houses got built. I mean, in East End, 300 years ago, 200 years ago, you got a wreck. 3 people in the family got a house,
And then they'd take half of the vessel for and the vessel and half whatever they did.
Yes.
And then
that's the way it worked.
Yes, that was the law of the sea.
But we don't talk about those things.
No, we don't. But
just like slavery.
And the slavery issue, it's very, very important. That famous slave there, Long Celia, was owned by one of my great granduncle, Thomas Knowles Eden, and she was tried in what was his father's house by Judge Drayton, who was one of the people who wrote that famous letter, one of the 3, to the British Governor Balfour in Jamaica in October 26, 1831. And he was the one who tried her. He was one of those 3. The others was a Jackson, I think, on a Borden. Or Water on a Borden, who wrote the letter. And he tried her and had her ordered her to get 50 lashes on her naked body.
Flogged her in Georgetown.
Her body. Somewhere in Georgetown. See where it would have been was somewhere like where the post office is now, I think. As we have figured it out. But all these things, like you say, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk. But what I'm saying is...
Well, caller, there will be more talk about it now because this is what this whole policy is about. This is why the approach is being taken now, and this is what this plan is all about. So there will be more talk about it.
Yeah, let me make it clear that this committee is not ignoring those. In fact, that's the reason it's so easy to talk about it, because this is exactly what we need to do. We need to tie these things in because, as I said before, it depends on what period in history you are. Who knows anything about what happened? The Seaman's ones before the 6th, and before we got with Jamaica, then the times that we were with Jamaica, and then the banking times after that are sort of the 3 periods in our history that it depends on where you are there, where you even go and look for information about it. So,
Caller, I want to thank you very much, for your input there as well. We still have a few minutes before we go to a break. Miss Nancy, off the air, and we spoke about this bullet point, honoring the past, and if you could read from that again, and I think that also helped to reassure our listeners, and in particular the previous caller as well, in terms of some of the things that we're looking at.
Of course, OC. There are several values, the spirit of the policy, what we as a group and with the public input thought we should be looking at. I will read honoring the past, but I just want to mention the other ones really quickly.
Yes, yeah.
One is to foster social inclusion. One is for peace building, which I don't think we need to do a lot, because I think, quite frankly, the people of the Cayman Islands have done the best job ever, considering we've had over 130 nationalities in such a short period of time. I think we should be worldwide exemplary on that, on peace building, for promoting and fostering peace despite all the various cultures coming together. I think has been incredible. Honouring the past, nurturing arts, culture and heritage, ensuring the status and support for artists, creatives and cultural workers at all levels of society, promoting respect for cultural diversity, intergenerational dialogue, transmission and knowledge sharing, critical, research-driven innovation, which we've talked about, sustainability and forward thinking. Let's go back to honouring the past. We decided that one of the values of the policy is that we have to really work to respect and honour our traditions, traditional knowledge systems, and the diverse and often conflicted past which is sometimes silenced, which still remains central to the Cayman Islands identity. And everyone comes to this for a different reason. Part of the reasons that it's important to the government, I think, isn't just that it's a culture and heritage policy per se. That is, you think of culture and heritage and you think of tangibles or intangibles, you know, seafaring and our history and all that. To me, it really speaks, what Mr. Hurlson spoke about, to the identity of our people. And we are having some issues, for instance, you know, in the labour force that, you know, people are talking about and people are aware of. And what we need to do is recognise that when we bolster our identity and when we know where we're coming from and we're strong with that, it's really hard for anybody else to put us down, because we have an amazing heritage that some of us share, some of us don't, but we can all work towards with our culture now.
Certainly. We've reached the top of the hour. Headline news at 9 o'clock. I want to say to our listening and viewing audience that our panel, they were scheduled to be here only until 9 o'clock. We're extending that time probably for an additional half an hour. We're going to have the phone lines open as well for you to call in, ask questions, make comments as well, because this is your opportunity to get involved. And if you want to be further involved in the policy, in the whole issue as well, you can find out from our panelists how you personally can be involved. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Cayman Islands Tourism Association announces the final list of nominees for the 16th Annual Cayman Stingray Tourism Awards. Organizers say 2019 was the highest number of nominees ever submitted. The awards gala is taking place on July 23rd at the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman. Iran has announced it will breach on June 27th the limit on its stockpile of enriched uranium that was set under a 2015 nuclear deal with world powers. Its atomic agency said Iran had quadrupled its production of the material, which is used to make reactor fuel, potentially nuclear weapons. But it added that there was, quote, still time for European countries to act by protecting Iran from reinstated U.S. sanctions. And Hong Kong's most prominent student activist Joshua Wong has called for the resignation of leader Carrie Lam after walking free from prison. The 22-year-old became the face of the 2014 pro-democracy protests, which called for the city to pick its own leaders. People in Hong Kong are again in the streets, this time against a controversial bill which would allow extradition to mainland China. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're discussing a national culture and heritage policy and strategic plan for the Cayman Islands. Slogan is safeguarding our heritage, living our culture. That discussion has taken place with Miss Nancy Bernard, Dr. Peggy Leshiker Denton, and also with us, Mr. Jerris Miller. Folks, like I reminded you earlier, the phone lines are open for you to call in, ask questions, make comments, get involved in preserving our culture, preserving our heritage, and at the same time making sure that it grows, and it grows in conjunction with all of the other modern aspects of Cayman society that we're coming along with. The population increases in population, the inclusion of other nationalities in our culture in the Cayman Islands, and how those cultures can coexist, and at the same time ensuring that our culture, which should be dominant is not lost as well. I don't know if I said that right.
Yes, I'd like to read the steering committee members out so that people know who was really involved in this. So it was the chief officer for the Ministry of Culture and myself, and then we had the heads of all the national culture and heritage organizations, which was the Cultural Foundation, Ms. Matu. We have with us the maritime archaeologist Dr. Peggy Leshkar-Denton with the National Museum, Natalie Urquhart with the National Gallery. The archive was very critical. They came, they sent various different representatives, and they're still having an active memory bank, which is important. Christina Pineda, who's then director of the National Trust for the Cayman Islands, now it's Nadia Hardy. And then we had the chair of Tourism's Attractions Board, Miss Carla Reid, Mr. Jairus Miller, who of course is here with us today with the Cayman Maritime Heritage Foundation and Catboat Club. Kiva Powell came from Ministry of Education, Ministry of Tourism, Dr. Dalton Walter. Then we had people from the AG's Chambers, Traditional Arts owner Chris Christian, and founding museum director Anita Banks. So that was a core group, and then we split out into about 5 different subcommittees to look at all of the various aspects of culture and heritage throughout the islands, and we included a lot more people. So we thought we did a pretty good job of getting all the stakeholders' comments, but this is a living document, OC, so over the years while we are implementing it, we can also amend it.
Yes.
So if there's anything that people feel should be more important and more highlighted, we need to get into this. It is difficult to talk about what should be subordinate or dominant in Cayman because our First Peoples already, our generational Caymanians already are quite small in number, and so we need to do our level best to make sure that those persons' concerns are heard and that those persons are listened to and promulgate the knowledge and history and heritage that they have, so that it stabilizes and creates the identity of the rock, the iron shore, upon which this country continues to be built.
Yes, we have another caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC.
Good morning.
And good morning to your panel. There's so many of them cannot remember.
Not a problem, not a problem.
What my problem that I have, this is Reba Dilbert, is our national dress. I find that a lot of people, it's like they're ashamed of it. And that's just our national dress. And another thing, our traditional music for the Cayman Islands should be called dress. I would like to see that in school and during Pirates Week. Like, I know in other countries when they're having their carnival, that's one thing that they come out with. The children come out in traditional clothes. And I think we should start there, because if you don't teach them while they're small, when they get bigger, they're not going to pay any attention. So we have to teach them while they're in primary school. I have a piece of plaid cloth that I'm going to make a traditional dress for my granddaughter. And Nancy, when it's made, I will call you to look at it.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Reba.
Yeah, because I think we need not to be ashamed of that dress, because I see other people making red plaid, which that is not our plaid. If you look on the Caribbean plaid dresses, we are not on the list. But our plaids are blue, like the dollar bill. Because how I know that? My grandmother made one for my daughter. So, and that red plaid that they're wearing, no, that is not our plaid. And we need to let them know. And when we go into pageants and different things, people ask you for your traditional dress. I've never seen a traditional Cayman dress made with a halter dress. I don't know where that style came from. But we need to let them know this is our dress, be proud about it, and wear it. Because we some of us deny who we are, but if you look at any part of the world, they have uglier dresses than us, and they're not ashamed to wear it. So that is what I would like you all to do, and if there's anything I can help on my business schedule, I will. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Reba, before you go, I think Dr. Pega wants to say something.
Yes, I think you'll be very pleased to know that there is something going on with teaching children the quadrille. Over the Northside Primary School, there's a group of 8 young people who are being taught by our museum staff member, Mr. Brian Watler Jr., And he leaves the museum kind of mid-afternoon every Wednesday to go over and teach these young people the quadrille. And he did this for a great number of months, and then they participated in the Children's Festival of the Arts, and they won gold. They were absolutely wonderful. And we just had an exhibit, a special exhibit opening, the Alvin McLaughlin exhibit, Steeped in Tradition, on a recent Saturday. And they performed for all of us there, and they are just absolutely wonderful. So we can be very proud of that, and at least that's a beginning foothold. Maybe we can teach some of the adults the quadrille as well. But anyway, the uniforms, we can talk a little bit, or the special dress, we can talk a little more about that.
I know that requires a whole separate, like Ms. Reba's saying, research into what was actually done, how it was made, what fabric, where it came from, and then figure out, how to. But enough stakeholders have to get, so there's many voices and the proper history and the looking at the records to see where it all came from, and then work from then, so that people like Brian, who the museum has kindly released to be able to go do this, and the older persons policy gave funding for it, so that they can be representing correctly, right?
Okay, Ms. Reba, you're still there?
Yes, I'm still there. Well, I know a lot about the dress, and I am going to make one for my granddaughter. And Nancy, when I make something, I make it with taste and quality.
Okay.
And because I have a very busy schedule, this is why I haven't got the dress made yet. But I will, and I will let you guys look at it.
Thank
you. If there's any question while I'm making it. But my grandmother taught me how to make it. And not taught me, she showed me how to make this dress and what it needed and the type of fabric it's for. Now, I can help on the make. I can also help you guys with the quadrille dresses. And do you know that those quadrille dresses are actually used throughout the Caribbean? If you go and check Caribbean plaid dresses, but they all have the right color. This is what I'm talking about. And actually, most of the dresses are made alike. So it would be good for you all to find out the history of these dresses and why they all made alike. Actually, I know because I read up on it. Anything I do, I read up on it because it don't make sense. You're doing something, you don't know what you're doing. But I hope it's Caribbean plaid dresses. If not, Nancy, I will look it up and I would send it to you.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Reba. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Reba, as well. What about the way we speak, our language, and the preservation of that as well?
When Ms. Reba said "mecana," my heart just warmed because, again, I grew up with that, but being from somewhere else, when I came here in the early 70s, that was what we grew up with, but now it's so rare. I was with a group at Stingray City with a company and a few years ago, and I heard one strong Caymanian accent, and it just warmed my heart, and I said to the tourists, look, you want to hear? This is our intangible heritage, culture. Here it is. So it's things like that, which I know Ray Banker, again, is allowed by the museum. He comes, I think, to Radio Cayman still and talks about the way we talk and everything is so important. All of that is so critical. Someone should be, possibly given a grant if they're interested to do a study on where that comes from, like a proper, thesis on.
Well, there is documentation on that. And actually, a friend of mine, Clarence Forbes in New York, one of his relatives, Tim Solomon, shared some information with me, and I have to look that up. But there are studies, people, a lady who lived here in Cayman and returned and spoke about the different accents and things of that nature, and it's all documented. So I'll get that and share that with you as well.
That's a very interesting topic because there's so many words that are actually proper English words that are in our vocabulary of the older people that people just don't even recognize. I mean, if someone, you're trying to inveigle me. It sounds like a made-up word. Look it up. And it's in the right context, the right meaning. Someone gives you a scotch or breadfruit. You know what you're talking about when I say scorch or bread fruit. If you look at it, a scorch is a thin slice of anything. But people have moved away from scorch like it was the wrong word. And in school, when I was in high school and prep school, I got corrected on some of these things. I mean, in later years, I wrote back to the teachers.
I'll take care of that directly.
Directly. But that is critical, Jairus, because now the Education Ministry and the department rolling out the new legislation and the history curriculum, we shouldn't be corrected for things like that. Maybe understanding that there's a time and a place. So maybe in this globalized world where we have to work and talk the talk internationally, yes, but don't, sort of have people feel put down for using certain colloquialisms
and some of this, like I said, not even colloquialism, it's perfect English. Okay, and there's people correcting you that corrected me, but they don't know the difference. Okay, you know what I mean? And when I found out the difference, I corrected them back. I mean, but that's happening too much in our culture. I mean, that you're acting like you're ignorant because you use a word like, give me a scorch of bread fruit or give me a scorch of your fish.
Yep.
Okay, but it's the right word in the right context if you look it up.
Good time for us to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly. Just push that mic.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
At Logic, we make things better for our customers. It's why we're offering free Boost Wi-Fi. With Boost, you get improved Wi-Fi connectivity everywhere in your home, so there's no more dead zones. The only people we're not making this better for is parents. Because now with seamless Wi-Fi in every room in your home, go to your room isn't really the punishment it used to be. Sorry about that. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
Each weekday, Monday through Friday, Miracle Brokers is the proud sponsor of Radio Cayman's Bulletin Board. For all your moving needs, call the professionals at Miracle Brokers, 949-5989 or 916-0355. For a free estimate, they take the hassle out of moving. Miracle Brokers.
Now located at 140 Kingbird Drive in the North Sound.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're having a very productive, interesting, stimulating discussion on the National Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan for the Cayman Islands with the theme Safeguarding Our Heritage, Living Our Culture. That conversation is taking place with Ms. Nancy Bernard, Mr. Jairus Miller, and Dr. Peggy from the National Museum as well. Folks, the mic is back over to you.
I just wanted to add before we go into more specifics that the reason this is such an important document for Cayman is because we are a lot younger than so many other countries, and our intangible and tangible, our built and other heritage is perhaps even more precious because we're younger and smaller. So, and because of the rate of immigration means that, and the development just means that we've all of that means that culture and heritage policy is extra critical for jurisdictions such as the Cayman Islands. So I'm really, really happy that we've had so much input into this and that we're now able to roll it out to cost some of the priorities that we need to do. And I just want to make a shout out to one of the people on one of our subcommittees. This is the level of people that we had. Sarah Collins is now being shortlisted for bestsellers around the world due to her book, and she was on our oral history and heritage subcommittee. So it's we've drawn on so much, and we have so much to do. And I would really ask everyone who wants a copy, call 244-2342. 244-2342, and we can get them delivered, or they're going to be at the libraries, at the government admin building, at the radio shows that we go to, the TV shows and so on, in the reception areas.
Okay, we have a full bank of calls, about 4 of them, so we're going to ask each caller to be as brief as possible. Our panel has agreed to stay on until 9:30, but if we go beyond that, not a problem. We just have open mic schedule, so we'll use open mic period for them to call in if they want to continue to call in, as long as you folks can stay here. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Orrett.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
How are you? Steve McPhail here. I guess I can't call you Comrade Orrett. Yes. There's a difficulty, Orrett, in what you were suggested about the Caymanian culture being first among equals.
Mm-hmm.
That is not going to happen, and it will never happen, because when you look at the history of conquest, whether it's economic, political, or military conquest, it seems to me that the dominant culture, the one that comes from outside, usually dominates the inner culture or the generational culture, and so the generational culture never gets to surpass the aspirations and the position of the outside cultures. And when I went to Canada, one of the first things that I learned was how that is illustrated with the First Nation people and the people from Quebec. There's a good book that you should try to get your hands on. It's called Niggers of America, and it's written by a Quebecer called Cardinal. And even though Canada has two different nations living together, and they're supposed to be separate but equal, and one culture dominates the other culture, and so forth. We are in a very difficult situation. And that's because we have been so isolated off the beaten track for centuries. Nobody came here, and we had to forge our way ourselves to go out into the world to make a living and to feed our families. That we adopted a inferior complex, I should say, when it comes to people from outside. We welcome everybody. And we thought that by welcoming everybody and making their stay pleasurable, that we would be treated as being kind. But a lot of people take that for weakness and overrun our system. That is what Mickey is talking about. That was what Mickey was trying to get through. I understand. I know he can only go so far in because of the restraint that he's in. But to be first among equals culturally, that will never happen in Cayman, because we do not set the parameters and the foundation of the cultural aspects of Cayman and the cultural aspirations of Cayman. So just forget that, Orrett. So try to preserve what you have for your family and for your friends and stuff. But for it to be a national policy, that will never happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. For that, I'll give you an opportunity to respond after we take a few more calls. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On the air?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if this will be considered national or not, but I kind of noticed a step away from people actually using the word football to calling it soccer. And I don't know, it just makes me feel really a little bit angry sometimes, to tell you the truth, because it's like, to me, it's like stepping away from what you were known all of the years to kind of like incorporate another country's culture and way of calling the game. I don't know if that is something that is considered of any importance or not, but I'll just put it out there. Also, I just kind of like, another thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way is the spelling of the word center. Yeah, you grow up learning that, the building, it's the name of a structure. That's how I remember being taught, in a way that, you spelled it with a TR, or you've gone by the center of a space or something, it's TER. Then, you just kind of, you see that kind of alternate throughout the island. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking that if it's a Caribbean country that is a British overseas territory, and that's the culture, that's what we were being taught, then perhaps we can preserve that way as well. I don't know, I just kind of put it out there. Mm-hmm. Thanks for the topic.
Thank you very much. Good point as well. Next caller, good morning, welcome to For the Record.
OC, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good. Kenneth E. Banks, good morning to
good morning.
Dr. Peggy, Nancy, and Ferris.
Good morning, Clydas.
How you all doing?
Good.
Okay.
Better now than I heard you.
Yeah. Time is short, so I will try and be as quick as possible.
Okay.
Couple of points, a couple of comments. One, I'm speaking to the current as well as past government. We have this thing about doing policies, whereas as opposed to creating legislation. We have a difficult enough task of enforcing our laws on the island, much less trying to enforce a policy. I don't know if anyone who has ever been sanctioned yet for violating a policy. So while it's a good start, yes, I would much have preferred if we went down the road of creating some legislation to protect our culture and heritage. That's one. Two, yes, we make a lot of light about having 120, 130 nationalities living here. What are the pros and cons of that? I can name a number of cons. I can't say I've seen that many pros. Look, our music, our food, our dress, what we watch on TV. I mean, we can go on and on. Like Dr. Michael just said, we I know this dominant culture. This dominant culture now is what has taken over. So yes, good luck with trying to quote unquote preserve, but I would much prefer if we went down the road of introducing legislation versus a policy. And I will hang up now and leave room for other callers.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. We're going to take the last call before we give our panel an opportunity to respond. The caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning to your panel there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And Miss Peggy, I know you know who this is. And
Good morning.
To Miss Reba about her blue plaid.
Yes.
I have the blue plaid. Miss Peggy, do you remember me having mine on? I actually worn mine at three different occasions. I be down by one of the hotels, and I were at the museum there when you had the coat of arms.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember me, right?
I do.
And then for Miss Tara's old time New Year's Day, they were the 3 times that I worn it, and people nearly went crazy over me. And with that style, I had a twist on mine. I went from the short sleeve to the long sleeve, and instead of the low neck, I have mine as a sailor collar in the blue on the white plaid, and then at the long sleeve at the cuff there is a blue for the cuff, and the skirt then is made with the blue, and then with this nice is it lace? Lace, no? White lace? Yes, so Reba, I am into the blue.
Okay, thank you, caller, for that. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we will have our panel respond to some of the questions as well as comments that were made by our previous callers. So please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Wow, it seems I buy a battery every year.
Oh, for real? You should buy your car battery from Vampman. Their batteries are tough. I have a 3-year warranty on mine.
Oh, I know that trick. I take it back and they charge me a percentage of the price.
Hear me out, bro. Not at Vamp, Bobo. You can get a 3-year full warranty, no charge. And if they install it at Vamp, it includes free towing and jumping service. And let me tell you, you will never have to get your hands dirty changing no battery.
Get Motorcraft Max or Plus battery for 20% off when it's installed by the service department at Vamp Motors on Walker's Road. Now that's a deal you can get charged up about. Vamp Motors, keeping you on the road.
Extended through June.
Sometimes having a middleman is not a bad thing, especially when it comes to insurance. Do you know that when it comes to cost, ease, speed, and peace of mind, insurance brokers ranked higher than when customers buy direct? So, for all your insurance needs, call Fidelity Insurance. We're the middleman you want. Call us today at 949-7822. Fidelity. We're good for you.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Wow, it seems I buy a battery every year.
Oh, for real? You should buy your car battery from Vampman. Their batteries are tough. I have a 3-year warranty on mine.
Oh, I know that trick. I take it back and they charge me a percentage of the price.
Hear me out, bro. Not at Vamp, Bobo. You can get a 3-year full warranty, no charge. And if they install it at Vamp, it includes free towing and jumping service. And let me tell you, you will never have to get your hands dirty changing no battery.
Get Motorcraft Max or Plus battery for 20% off when it's installed by the service department at Vamp Motors on Walker's Road. Now that's a deal you can get charged up about. Vamp Motors, keeping you on the road.
Extended through June.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're discussing National Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan for the Cayman Islands with the slogan, Safeguarding Our Heritage, Living Our Culture. This is the document here available. And again, I'm going to ask Ms. Nance before we respond to all of the callers, tell our listening and viewing audience about the availability of this document, please.
Okay. You can call 244-2342 to have copies or a copy delivered to you, or you can locate in any of the public libraries. Within a couple of weeks, we should have them out to the public libraries, to the schools, and to Radio Cayman and other radio stations and so on. And they're free of charge. And we want you to use it, earmark it, make notes, see what we can do to change it. We want this to be an active, living document.
Okay, and now let's get to our responses and observations from our callers.
Well, I think one of the probably most critical issues with this And I've done a lot of studies on, social history and so on. And I think what Mr. McField said is a very valid point. Mm-hmm. I know he is a very learned man who comes from a lot of very astute knowledge and research into certain areas of our heritage and our cultural life. And this policy is not going to be all things to all people. I am also an optimist, though, and I do hope that at least by opening up the conversation, we can see what gaps exist and what privileges or non-privileges have been afforded to our people over the years and today as well, aligned with culture and heritage that we can begin to address through the policy. And in line with what Mr. Connor said, a policy isn't legislation, so we're not going to. This is our hopes, dreams, and aspirations. So it's a starting point, and we'd like to amend it over time. So all of these notes, everything we hear, will be taken into account. However, we do have legislation as one of the 7 policy directions is legislation, but not just to come in and say we have to do legislation on things, but to see where it's really needed, such as we mentioned earlier, planning law, something to augment saving our old buildings, but there's other things as well. But we need everybody's input like that, and people could have a whole separate dialogue, even a symposium on certain inequalities of cultural life of various groups of people or backgrounds of people, and that is a very important voice to be told as well.
So Nancy, the policy direction 3, which is legislation, it does say creating and harmonizing effective legislative frameworks for the identification, protection, preservation, and management of our cultural and heritage sectors. And it identifies 3 different problem statements with answered by a number of strategic aims. So it is something that the policy is trying to make more concrete through legislation. Anyway.
But we weren't there yet. We need, we need to have a lot more dialogue, and we need to see what all the existing cultural organizations are doing, what individuals are doing out in the districts to promulgate our heritage and culture and to strengthen what we have today before we start looking at the legislative arm of it.
Okay. Each organization, look at the archive with the archive was founded in the end of the 80s or 1990, and the museum, we came into being by the law of 1979, but came into existence in 1990. We are young organizations. The Cultural Foundation is slightly older, and all of these organizations have come into being with legislation carrying them, and they have built the foundation upon which we can now move forward, with this culture policy. It's different, I think, areas of history and culture, that and the Cat Boat Club, the Maritime Foundation, the education, the school, and so forth, the books, the Founded Upon the Seas. All of these are the foundation upon which we can maybe achieve that. Ultimately, that overarching legislation, I would think. So we're on the trail.
Okay, Mr. Miller, you wanted to say something, and we've allowed one more call to come in as well. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
I want to speak on all 3 things, so I won't be brief. But Miss Reba brought a point here that I hope it sinks in with your listening public and everything as well. Okay, I remember when the whole Cayman national dress was developed. Several years ago, we had a Miss Cayman that did quite well at the Miss World and everything, and they came out with this red plaid dress for her to be over there with, and she wore it, and the older Caymanians were very insulted because it looked just like the picture on a Aunt Jemima on the syrup bottle, which really gets back to slavery, etc. Wow. So the blue instead of the red has a real reason. Okay, it's not just some Reba liking blue better. Okay, and the decision makers need to always look back at where we are in those situations. Mr. Ebanks made a very good point as well. But I just want to assure him that in this process, one of the steps is legislation, and I would be disappointed if he didn't get to that. But the process in order to get to that is to get a better picture, because this is starting from scratch, and we need to look at the whole picture before we start with the legislation. Yes. Not only because it's a legislation about the culture and the heritage, but it's going to affect other legislation, whether it's planning or whatever that has to or the environment or whatever has to be involved in it. And to Mr. Steve, he also made a very good point that the present culture overwhelms the past, and but I want to assure him that is very we're very conscious of that at this stage in the committee, and one of the things that we hope that this does is to try and balance that problem, because our older history is a verbal history more than a written history, as Peggy mentioned. I mean, the books and stuff started getting written in the 70s and the 80s, and before that we all knew what our history was, but it was a passed down history. Passed down history doesn't necessarily filter down into newer members of the population that come to the island. So it disappears, because when they have kids and they're telling their kids, they can't tell their kids about the things that I can tell my kids about. So it's important that we, the older ones, really bring this forward and become a part of this process. And I mean, Mr. Macfield is an excellent example of someone who is actually doing that. And I just don't want him to get just feel defeated on it, because I think that the committee is behind what he wants to do.
Okay, so we're going to take this final caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Madam Speaker. How are you?
I'm fine. I missed some of your show, but I really wanted to say something special today.
Sure.
And I'm going to comment on that dress thing. We have the original dress on a mannequin at the Bodentown Heritage Site. It's a fine brown check, and it's a beautiful gown. Maybe y'all should come and see that.
Okay.
But we will be having a special open house on the 1st of July to celebrate Constitution Day. We've done it before, and we're going to do it in style this time, because it is 60 years of constitutional development. And we are inviting everyone to come and see the heritage of this country as collected and displayed in 2 buildings in the Bodentown Heritage Site, the Nurse Joseph Senior Center and the Heritage House. 4 acres of ground with a playground, a natural park with a beautiful playground for children. And I think everybody who wants to know what their culture is about and where it came from and how it developed should come to Bodentown on the 1st of July to see Bodentown's heritage and Cayman's heritage all at the same time. People who have visited that, the parliamentarians came from all the different countries, and they could not believe that we had a collection here that portrayed the people of the country, as opposed to museums and galleries that portrays arts and other things. This portrays the people of the country, where they came from. They took pictures to go back to try to develop something like that in their own country, and we have it sitting here in Bodentown for 16 years, and we beg people to come and see it, and nobody shows up, including that committee. And I was a part of that committee, but I don't have time now. I'm running out of time. I don't have time to sit down and make policy. It is time for us to get something done. And we don't get it done unless we start doing it. And that's what we did in Bodentown. You come and see it, Mr. Matt. You have not been there either, have you? I want all of you listening to me, come to Bodentown.
I've been there on one occasion. I've been there.
I've been there, Ms. Mayor.
And see the history. And see the history.
Certainly.
Because that's where we have collected it, we have showcased it, we have documented it, and we are now a registered entity since everybody said we had to do that.
Okay, yeah.
Awesome.
So hope to see you on the 1st of July, and we will celebrate Constitution Day as it should be celebrated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for that as well. Now, she brought up an excellent point again. We have things dispersed all over the place in terms of our heritage, pros and cons of either bringing that under one umbrella or leaving them all out there, and each entity basically is scrambling for its own survival.
I'd like to speak to that.
I'd like to speak to that too. I think what they're doing there, Ms. Mary and her friends, is very important because it's decentralizing, and that's decentralizing also the power of the holdings, and it's putting a slant from a district point of view or even a community point of view onto something. So there's a place for both. I think there's a place for the national entities and there's a place for individuals, communities or groups, and I think that's in line with what all of government would like to see, more decentralized and sort of
And on the same topic, Ms. Mayor has been excellent person in terms of collecting artifacts, etc. I deal with the Maritime Heritage Foundation. It's not that easy in the Maritime. There's tons of maritime historical artifacts on this island, but they belonged to someone's grandfather.
Yes.
It's like what happened with the catboats, or it belongs to their father, and no amount of cajoling or anything, or working. I shouldn't say that. There are some families that have been very helpful, and I want to thank them. I mean, without calling them out to come here, but there's a tremendous amount of our history that is in houses around this island, and it doesn't translate down necessarily through the generations. Something that someone, that a mother may feel so important because it's part of her history. The son or the daughter, when they inherit it, might just think it's a piece of junk. And there's no facility where, you can pick up the phone and say, Jerris, I got or there's a piece of history here, we're getting ready to throw it away, you guys want to come have a look at it. If you don't know that particular person has this sort of stuff, it's very difficult to access it.
Dr. Pegg, a question, I know you want to say something, but is there any sort of policy in relation to what Mr. Miller just spoke about in terms of persons being able to loan items, artifacts to the museum for periods of time or whatever?
Well, that becomes very difficult. It's we much prefer for things to be donated because then there's a clear legal accession and chain and so forth. But just to say, I think there's room for decentralizing in an area where there's such enthusiasm and interest and place to house and interpret. It's absolutely wonderful. The National Museum does exist as a repository that all three islands can contribute to. And I will say that if you go in the museum and you see, the number of objects that we have on display, say right now, you might think that there are not so many, but the museum actually has probably 9,000 500 objects in its collection, and we're trying to find a way to make them more accessible. We do that sometimes through changing exhibitions or loans. We, have a quilt on loan in Little Cayman. We assist the museum in the BRAC with, some of their work. We have some objects at the historic Stepwell. We loan paintings to the National Gallery. So we are actually we decentralize our own. We are the people's collection. At the museum. Also, individuals do call us sometimes. We've had. Medical implements donated to us when someone at the health areas. Thought of it. We were recently approached by Mr. Alvin McLaughlin from East End, who was he was the heritage king of Pirates Week, if you will. At East End over so many years, and he did such a good job. He's getting a little older now, and he wanted to find a home for his collection, just like Mr. Ira did so many years ago when the core of the museum collection really was about 2,000 objects that Mr. Ira had collected, in which in which the museum actually acquired from him, and then in recent times our ministry of Health and Culture has assisted in acquiring 365 objects from Mr. Alvin McLaughlin. because he was ready,
Yes.
And these were not all the community's objects. People still have, some of their own objects, but they're objects that his family, or that he acquired over the years. So we, if there are significant collections in districts that can no longer display them, then we would be we would want to assist in acquiring those objects for the national collection. But we would definitely not interrupt any situation such as in Bodentown, where they're doing such a darn good job at present. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, it'll give you an opportunity for some closing comments as well. And I want to thank you for, indulging us in terms of going beyond the time that had been allotted for you as well. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Wow, it seems I buy a battery every year.
Oh, for real? You should buy your car battery from Vantman. Their batteries are tough. I have a 3-year warranty on mine.
Oh, I know that trick. I take it back and they charge me a percentage of the price.
Hear me out, bro. Not at Vamp Bobo. You can get a 3-year full warranty, no charge. And if they install it at Vamp, it includes free towing and jumping service. And let me tell you, you will never have to get your hands dirty changing no battery.
Get Motorcraft Max or Plus battery for 20% off when it's installed by the service department at Vamp Motors on Walkers Road. Now that's a deal you can get charged up about. Vamp Motors, keeping you on the road.
Extended through June.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Always ensure that food preparation utensils are washed with a strong detergent and rinsed in hot water in the event that they have made contact with flood water. Boil silverware for 10 minutes and immerse glass, porcelain, china, and plastic items in a solution of hot water and 10% chlorine bleach before use. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're on the final leg of the show. Actually, we're on the final leg at 9 o'clock, but the good folks here agreed to stay on for a longer period of time. We said 9:30. It's now 10 minutes to 10, and they're still here. And they are Miss Nancy Bernard, Dr. Peggy Leshaker Denton, and Mr. Jerris Miller, and we're talking about the National Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan for the Cayman Islands, with the slogan, Safeguarding Our Heritage, Living Our Culture.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have some closing comments. We're going to start with Mr. Miller, go around the table, and Ms. Nancy will have the final say. Mr. Miller.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the listening public that encourage them to get involved with this. You're going to find that there are areas or directions that we might be going that you might want to emphasize another direction. This is how you'll do it, by the communications with the department, with Nance and there. And it's a living document. It has to change as people bring their input in. And we want to really encourage that, because before you get to legislation, we need all the views. And don't worry if the views don't coincide with what you see in the document today, okay? That's the whole idea. We want to hear from the people out there, you know.
Dr. Peggy.
Yes, I can underscore that as well, and just say, point again to the diversity of the policy and the talent that you may have, or the thing you may hold dear to your heart. Please do, bring your ideas forward, because they are welcome, and they will help enrich the direction that the policy will take. Thank you.
And Miss Nancy.
Right. We have a lot of work to do, and I'd like to thank the people. Peggy and I were employed with government or with a statutory authority, but also people like Mr. Jerris Miller who take a couple of hours off for their extended lunchtime to thank his employer for letting him do that. We have so much work to do. We recognise the fact that all of us are coming from different places, both culturally and in our heritage, and so we bring different stories to this document and we bring different issues. But primarily, the first and foremost primary thrust of this is to augment and safeguard our heritage. We need to have that seen loud and clear. We need it to speak to all of our industry, the finance services industry and the tourism industry, so that it has a lot of integrity. So we would ask, when things are being developed, that they check in with the culture and heritage sectors to make sure that the correct whether it's clothing, national dress, or whatever is language is used. We recognise it won't be all things for all people, so as Mr. Jarrett says, we really recognise that we need all the voices in, and some people may disagree with certain aspects, but we need input. We would ask for input, please. Again, the number to call is 244-2342.
Okay, and just a phone number. Is there an email address if someone wanted to document something and send it in by email? Is that possible as well?
Yes, they can use my email address. It's nancy.barnard, that's B-A with an A, B-A-R-N-A-R-D, at gov.ky. All of these things are being noted and taken into consideration while we move forward.
Okay, because I must say that we here in the Cayman Islands, we have a tendency to... We're given the opportunity to make comments, to have input, on particular things. We either hesitate or we don't do it at all, and then we become extremely critical when the end product is out there, and so then we get on that criticizing bandwagon as opposed to getting on the bandwagon early, the input bandwagon rather than the criticizing bandwagon. And it's extremely important in this particular case that is done, I believe.
It is, absolutely, Osi. I think that is the critical point here, is this is for everybody. This is how we live, how we act, how we interact. So if there's any aspect of it that people aren't happy with, of either this document or life in Cayman to do with culture or heritage, we have the opportunity now within this framework to make amends, to start the dialogue on the matters.
Okay, so I want to thank you all very much again, and if you want to sit around the table and just listen to a little bit more history here, March the 11th, 1957, the newspaper was called the Cayman Times, and they had an article in there, Girl of the Week, and it reads, her first name is Andrea, but she's better known by her middle name, Cecile, and all the elusive charm that is conjured up by that name can be seen in that beautiful young lady, Cecile Thompson, whom I've chosen for this week's Girl of the Week. Cecile was born right here in Georgetown, our capital, the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Kingsley Thompson and sister of Selma, who was recently a Girl of the Week. Like Selma, Cecile was educated at Triple C High School, which was operated by teachers from Anderson, Indiana, and she graduated on August 12th, 1955. Efficient. Cecile, winsome, it says a winsome 19-year-old, is an efficient secretary at the H.O. Marin and Company, and she is one of the main reasons why that thriving business moves on oiled wheels. She belongs to the Presbyterian Church, rates reading as her favorite pastime, and takes her recreation in swimming and playing softball seriously. So what does Cecile think should be done to improve our capital city? She says with perfect candor, get rid of our mosquitoes. So it seems that the wipeout of the mosquitoes is what she desired. So, again, 1957, Cayman Times, Girl of the Week, and we'll share more of that with you as well, because that also is part of our history. That is part of our heritage. That is part of our culture. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if we're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are brothers and sisters keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.